Well, hi, how are you, everybody? Nice to see you all again. Welcome to ATL Home Market. I'm Ira Miskin. I'm the broker and team leader for your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, the Miskin team, along with Stephanie Miskin, our team leader, and Josh Guallett, who is our associate broker and senior team leader with your Home Sold Guaranteed, the Miskin team. And joining us today, our special guest is Dee Howard, who is also a senior leader with the Miskin team and also the leader of the Dee Howard team. And we're going to spend pretty much most of the time talking about a lot of the programs and issues and needs that get matched up when we speak with sellers and then help them to get prepared to and then help them get their home sold. You know, um, even though there are lots of similarities among people who are selling their homes, like I need to sell my home, every single group or individual that's selling their home has some reason or goal that's specific to them for why they are needing to sell at this point, and also some very specific criteria, even if they generally sound the same, like I want the most money, I want to sell it at the quickest amount of quickest time. They still have their own criteria, and the homes themselves have criteria that demand that you have a range of programs that fit the goals, the needs, and the property in order for it to get sold and sold the best way possible for the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time and certainly with the least amount of hassle. And so we're going to spend some time talking about that. Dee and Josh are very well steeped in those areas, had a great deal of experience in helping sellers to find the best path. But before we do, we'd like to get Stephanie to jump in for a minute and give us an idea of what really totally cool things are going on this week in Metro Atlanta, so that if you decide you want to sell your home in Chicago and move to Atlanta, you'll know how much fun it is to actually live here. Steph, what you got this week?
Yeah, I got a lot of cool things this week. The first thing I want to talk about, this is really, really, really cool, and it's going on at the Georgia Aquarium, which is downtown, and it's going to be running from May the 30th to August the 17th, and it's called Glow Nights, and it's like the ocean comes alive after dark. So what this experience is, it's a whole play on the ocean's bioluminescence, where they're going to take the atrium in the aquarium and light it up. And there's going to be aerial acts, and there's going to be live performances, and everything's going to glow. There's going to be tattoos for the kids, jugglers, all kinds of stuff, unicyclists. And it's going to start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon at the aquarium. And the aquarium is open till 9 o'clock. The cool thing about it too is not only is the whole idea just lots of fun, the kids are going to love it. It's very dynamic. But if you go to the aquarium after 4 o'clock, you're going to get $10 off your admission. So remember that $10 off your admission after 4 o'clock to go see Glow Night at the aquarium. Check it out because it's really cool. So that's number one. There's a lot of music stuff going on this weekend. Of course, the Atlanta Jazz Festival, which I talked about last week in Piedmont Park, is going to be going on again this weekend. Again, it's been going on forever and ever. It's huge, and it's free, and it's in Piedmont Park. So that's one. Then they have something else going on for all your millennials. It's called Millennial Mayhem, and it's on Saturday, May the 31st from 7 to 11 at a place in Lawrenceville called the Slow Pour Brewing Company. And basically, it's going to be reliving all the hits from the 2000s. There are going to be 10 bands, 40 cover songs. It's going to be very high energy, and it's free, and there's no cover charge. So if you're a millennial and you like all that music, check that out. And then the last thing I have for music is going to be taking place at the Guannett Historic Courthouse, also in Lawrenceville. And that's on Friday, May the 30th, from 6:30 to 9:30. And it's going to be live music and dancing in a great historic setting. You can reserve, if you get online, a private table if you want to bring a dinner or something like that, and a drink tickets. So that's going on at the Guannett Historic Courthouse in Lawrenceville on Friday from 6:30 to 9:30. Now, festivals. You know, I love art festivals. I guess that goes back to the days when I was an artist. So I'm always trying to find you a good art festival that's juried. And this one is going to take place on Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be the Old Fourth Ward Spring Festival. And that's going to be May 31st to June the 1st, from 10 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. All the things that art festivals have, you know, art, food, games for the kids, beverages. All of this is within Atlanta's most lovely park, part of the celebration of becoming of the Beltline, of the Beltline redevelopment. So, you know, if you guys are curious about the Beltline and how that's developed, check this out. Old Fourth Ward Spring Arts Festival. And last but not least, I felt like I wanted to talk about this kind of in the summertime. You know, the summer can be exasperating for people who have kids and work. It can also be super expensive when you think about, you know, sending a camp, send them here. Everything costs so much money. So one thing that is just, it's a bargain in Georgia are the state parks. So you can go, and I'm going to talk about some different state parks so that anybody who's not familiar with them maybe will become familiar with them. And the first one I want to talk about is Red Top Mountain State Park. And that's in Ackworth. And it's on Lake Allatoona, which is obviously a huge lake. So you can go into that park and only pay $5 for the car. And once you're in there, I mean, the opportunities to do stuff with the kids is endless. This particular park has a sand beach, which is great. I've taken kids, grandkids there. It's a sandy beach, so that's always lots of fun. There's picnic shelters. There you can go boating, you can go hiking, you can rent if you wanted to spend the night there. There's all kinds of facilities to rent, you know, from cabins to yurts to all kinds of things that are not really expensive. So check that one out. $5 to get in, and you can spend the whole day. Nature trails. I mean, it's very cool. It's very cool. They even have a paved trail suitable for wheelchairs and strollers. So that is Red Top Mountain State Park in Ackworth. And I'm going to tell you about some different ones around the metropolitan area so that you guys can, you know, have a fun day with the kids and not go broke. And that's what I got for you guys today.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Years ago, we used to go horseback riding at the state parks.
Right. That was Hard Labor Creek State
Hard
Park.
Labor Creek State Park.
Right.
That's right. There were wonderful riding trails there. It's just, you know, great environment. It's one of the things that makes Georgia so extraordinary and unusual. And it's because of the diversity of the landscape, the diversity of the people, big cities and metro areas like, you know, Atlanta, Savannah, great universities, lots of job opportunities, so many different things that have grown and evolved over the last 30 or 40 years that makes everything in and around Metro Atlanta just a hub for the Southeast and a great draw for people. It's why, you know, there's, you know, such a great need for more housing, the need for new construction, and the need for people who, when they move and they move into a home, and this happens a great deal. It happened with us. You know, we bought our first house. It was two of us. It was a little 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. And over time, we grew. And 3 bedrooms and 1 bath on a teeny weeny little skinny lot wasn't enough for what we needed. And so we sold that house to buy a bigger house with multiple bedrooms and multiple bathrooms and a basement on a half-acre lot. Everything changes for people. You grow up or you grow down in size and need and goals. And when it comes to the point at which you now need to get that home sold, people think, well, I got to list my home. But listing your home is really not the idea. Selling your home is what the idea is. And listing is just one part of it. But there are so many things that have to happen in order for you to successfully sell that home, of which, again, listing is just one part. And so many ideas and so many programs that need to drive the bus in order for you to be successful. And there need to be a variety of programs that fit your individual needs. And one of the things that Dee and Josh and Stephanie and I were talking about just before we started this podcast was some of it has to do with, in the very beginning, attitude about selling the home. And I think Josh or Dee, one of you said, letting go is really what that phrase is. What does that mean when you're talking with your potential sellers and letting go?
So really, it just means recognizing that you no longer want to be in the home. You no longer, that's not your life anymore. You're the next home. Your destination is the home. So, there are a lot of times when people have lived in the home for a long time, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, 5 years is enough, where they see it from their point of view and not from the buyer's point of view. And that can get people in trouble. The attitude, the thought process can get people in trouble if they don't watch themselves.
Yeah, it's like, okay, folks, you don't live here. And then they say, well, who's going to clean the bathroom? So you're going to clean the bathroom, but you don't live there. You've had that, I think, any number of times with folks who they have attachment to location, and then they have to really make that psychological transition in order to understand that it's the buyer that needs to be satisfied in order for that home to sell.
That is so true. And one of the things that I always share with my sellers is that to get them over the hump, 2 things I tell them. One is, I want you to see yourself in your new place. So that helps them detach. And number 2 is, as we go through the house and I ask them to declutter those mementos or memories, a lot of pictures and photos that I usually tell them to put away, that also helps them detach from the home, because they have to let go in order to move forward.
In other words, depersonalize the environment and separate yourself from whatever it was, good, bad, or indifferent. That was the life that you lived in that house, because as both of you have said, you're now moving to your next home. This home now is going to be the ideal for the buyer of your home, because you have an ideal for the new home that you're purchasing. It's a hard thing to do because emotion takes so much of a play. But in addition to that, and that's always to some degree a part of what the sale is all about, there are the steps that have to be taken so that the seller is really fully prepared to be able to sell that home and then buy another. How many times have you, either of you, run into a situation where the seller wants and needs to get that home sold, but their credit is not good enough, even though they may have the money for the down payment from the sale of their home? Their credit isn't good enough for them to be able to get a loan to buy their next home. What do you do about that?
So what I normally do when it comes to a seller looking to buy their next home, they still need to work on their credit. Something happened. Normally, it could have been missed payments or late payments, whatever it may be. We really kind of get an idea of what the issues that started it. Was it, sometimes it's not necessarily a bankruptcy, but it could have been, again, late payments. It could have been just a missed payment on a credit card or a not realizing they're really just overextended their credit. So we have to start diagnosing what the actual issue is, what caused the issue, and then if they need it, we actually will get them connected with credit repair. Trinity Credit Repair being one of our primary partners. So it really just depends on what their issue is and figuring out what the issue is. Oh, how we really can overcome it. That's the first thing we do.
So credit can be an issue. Also, having the capital necessary to make that transition from house one to house two. So it really becomes more of a partnership between, in some cases, credit repair, a good loan group, loan officer, and a loan group that can help the home seller as the buyer now for the next home to be able to understand and shape their finances. But then there's also the situation where, well, I want and I can afford to pay on a monthly basis for a bigger, nicer home. But even when I sell my current home, I may not have enough money to put down. So now you have to deal with things like down payment assistance and so on. Josh, how do you pull all of those pieces together so that it makes sense for the seller and is also something that is within their reach and they can do?
That's definitely a delicate balance. It's always a delicate balance. A lot of moving pieces to the puzzle. And you threw out a lot there, Ira. So for balancing the sale of the home, making sure that they get the kind of equity that they need or want to move to the next one, balancing getting their credit to where it should be so that if they don't have sufficient funds that they can use a particular down payment assistance program, it all goes to, as Joshua said earlier, we have to identify the problem and the need. But since we are talking about down payment assistance programs, all of them are not created equally. And knowing your particular client's need helps you to maneuver to them to the right down payment assistance. Some are very much so income based, some are location based, some have no restrictions at all. You can be making $450,000 and still get down payment assistance. So it all depends. And that's why you need to have a very professional and knowledgeable real estate agent to help you maneuver through those waters.
And that agent has to have that team with them. You just don't kind of pluck this out of the air. You have to have the resources necessary so that the people side of it and the business side of it get drawn together with a team of specialists that you know and trust that can work to make all of those elements pull together.
And it's not one thing, it's not always about the actual sale. So it's not just always about the sale of the house. A lot of times it's based on planning. And yes, you want to sell your home, but if you're the home that you're in, one thing I tell a lot of my home buyers, buying first house, second house, third, fifth house, fourth, fifth, doesn't matter, is if you have the ability and there's two people purchasing the property, let one person, if they're able, buy the property. They can put themselves, the other person on the deed, but not on the mortgage, because it frees up the DTI, it frees up the debt and income ratio for the second person later to buy the next house, whether it's going to be their primary residence, whether it's going to be a secondary investment property, a vacation home. But it frees up the second person to go ahead and move forward, and then they can just move forward, sell the previous home, and then just have the second property move directly into. So a lot of it's not necessarily based on just that home and what you're hoping to do next, meaning the next home you're buying, but really having the consultation and the knowledge to move forward. And like you said earlier, buying that $250,000 home, that first home, then when life changes, buying the 4-bedroom, and then maybe even the 5 or 6 bedroom. Because one thing I can say, and a lot of people don't realize, is very few people that are buying that $900,000, $1 million house, 1.5, whatever it may be. Very few people have the ability to afford that mortgage on a monthly basis. Very few people are going and spending, $10,000, $12,000, $13,000, $15,000 so $1,000 a month on mortgage, and then all the other auxiliary expenses. So having the knowledge and building that plan up so that okay, I'm going to jump to this house, and then I'm going to buy that next house, whether it's an investment or your secondary home, and then selling those two, and then moving to the third. That usually is the best way, and that starts with just planning, and that's what we do. So it's not just, again, buying that next house or selling that next house. It's about knowing the steps involved to get to where you want to be, and that's what we help with.
And I know Stephanie knows this. Certainly our parents and grandparents back in the day, if you could afford to buy a home, you bought that home and you lived in that home until you died. And like the case of Stephanie's family, Stephanie's grandfather bought the house that she grew up in and sold that house to her parents. And so that house was in that family for literally 2 full generations, 70 plus years. And the only reason that Stephanie and I aren't living in that house is because when we got married, we moved to Chicago. We couldn't take the house with us because that was in Brooklyn, New York. But otherwise, families lived generationally. These days, houses are a combination of a place to live, convenient to get to work, good schools for the kids, some set of circumstances that make the house and the location useful, but it's not useful for the entire time that you're going to be living in a home. And so we'd like to talk to people about, as Josh said, having a plan for buying homes. It's not just buying a house. Well, gosh, all I can afford right now is this little townhome for $225,000. And I really want a much bigger home, but all I can afford right now is a townhome for $225,000. And that's where the plan starts, right? Take it away, Josh.
Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It starts somewhere. And that's the thing I like to say. And I've said it before, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The best time to plant a tree now, the best time, is now. After that, it's the best time is now. So it really, you have to start somewhere. You have to get into a position where, okay, you're building equity, and that equity from the purchase of that $200,000 or $250,000 home, can support that $450,000 home later. This is not going to be your forever home. The kids are going to grow. The kids may not even be there initially, but kids will show up. Animals will show up. Jobs will change. Location will have to change with that. So recognizing that first home, especially that first step, is not your forever home. Maybe even that second house may not be your forever home. Will allow you to get into the position to get to where you want to be. So the only time there are people I talk to, a lot of times they want to build a custom home. People that are, younger couples, not realizing, there's a lot of things that may change. And what I tell them, unless you're going to die in that house, you're going to move. I don't care if it's a custom home or not, unless you're going to die in that house, unless, life is going to stop for you, meaning nothing's going to change ever, which we all know life will make fools of us all. It always changes. You need to plan.
And that's part of looking at houses as an investment, as well as an environment for you to have a good and pleasing life. Investment in real estate and the use of real estate and the use of your home as a good, safe, pleasing environment to come home to live in, but also a good piece of investment so that at some point you can use what we call equity in that home to be able to either move up and buy your next home or sell the house and take the cash and travel around the world, whatever you want. But the house is both an investment in your personal existence and an investment in your wallet. And it's how you use that wallet that becomes important. And there are folks that when they decide, I need to sell, they have a big concern about but where would I live when I sold my home? Oh my God, how can I? But I can't sell my house if I don't buy my house, but I can't buy a house unless I sell my house. And over the years, there have been some interesting programs that have evolved. And I know Josh and Dee, you both worked with and looked through programs. It's called Buy Before You Sell, which is a really interesting way of being able to use the equity value in your home to be able to purchase another home before you sell your current home. You guys explain it. Tell us how that works and tell us how it's a benefit to some home sellers.
I'll let Josh take that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
Josh.
So the way the Buy Before You Sell program really works is, the best way to think about it is a scenario where someone is living in their home. They love their home, but it's at the point where they really just need to go somewhere else. They need maybe more space. They need to travel for work or buy a home for, in a different location. So what occurs is they may not have enough in order to purchase their next property. They may need money to renovate their current home, whatever it may be, but they need their down payment to be able to purchase the next property, but they don't have it saved. So what they do is we actually have several banks and several lenders that will give you the equity from your current home, allow you to take that, buy your next home. They actually will cover the mortgage on the current home while you actually are in the next home. And while you're in the next home, they will actually, it gives you the time and the opportunity to sell your current home vacant with everything removed. You've had a chance to clean up, all the markers from the kids are off the walls now. You can clean it up, and then you can sell the home for a higher price because you're no longer in the home. There's less people, there's less chances of damaging the property from, your own family. And it makes it where you don't have to find that down payment, but you can go ahead and move.
And that resolves a lot of the issues about both the fear of where am I going to live? I own two homes or I don't own any home and I'm homeless. And it gives enough time to plan the move in steps so that you can not only get the best home that you can purchase and move into it, but then take your time. And when you're not in a rush and you don't have to hire people to quickly clean up or remodel a home in order for it to get sold, but can do it in steps over a couple of month period, it keeps costs down. It gives you the chance to see how things are changing and growing. And it helps you to really plan what that house needs to be so that when it's ready to go on the market, it is in the best possible condition and therefore the most attractive to the home buyers. But there are also things that you can do, programs that you can add.
Well, I want to add something to that certified to that. So that is also the perfect time for our certified pre-owned program. So
that's exactly where I was going to go, 100%.
Jumped ahead of you. So the way our certified pre-owned program works is once we actually start the process of selling a client's home, we'll go through doing pre-inspection. We'll go ahead and do pre-title work. We'll go ahead and get the home warranty in place for the buyer. And we even have a home warranty for the seller at no cost to the seller whatsoever. So what we do is we go in and make sure all the issues are solved, because if an issue is if a closing is going to fall through outside of the buyer's financing, which we are hawks about making sure the buyer is able to close, is something came up during the inspection that just couldn't be overcome, or something came up during the title work, that a cloud on the title that delayed the closing to the point where we couldn't close. So the reason why our certified program works so well, and the reason why it helps the seller so much, especially when they're out of the property, they've already moved to the next property, and they're no longer rushing to sell that home, is that if there are issues that pop up from the title, if there are issues that pop up from the inspection report, they can be fixed at a substantially better price. When a buyer, an outside third-party buyer, comes in and inspects a property, we actually give an inspection report. So a lot of times the buyer doesn't even inspect the property. And also, if a buyer does come in and inspect the property, if they were not to have the pre-inspection, and if they were not part of the certified pre-owned program, the buyer does not want you to fix that issue. The buyer wants a certified, contractor. They want a licensed certified contractor. So it's not okay for you to go and fix that wall outlet for $15 because you know how to do it. It works well. It's a very basic thing. You may even be a contractor. I've actually had clients that were contractors, general licensed contractors. They don't want that person to do it. They want someone else to do it. So something that could have cost $20 on a bad day to fix now costs $150 just for them to come see the house to start the process of fixing the issue. So
because now the problem is no longer a problem because it doesn't exist because it gotten taken care of
from the pre-inspection. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that came to my mind, it just really puts the buyer at ease, because when you have an inspection already done and you give them the report and say all these things that came up, if there were any things, were taken care of by the owner, that makes them feel, okay, well, this owner is above board. They're not trying to hide anything. Everything is on the table. It really gives the buyer a better feeling that, okay, I see this owner is about business and they're trustworthy. So I know I'm going to get a good home.
And you had a home that you sold just recently, and it was not a simple house to sell, even though it was a really wonderful house because of its location and because of some of the costs. And one of the elements that you used was a certified pre-owned home. How did that help you to be able to market and get that home, get buyers to come and see it and get that home sold?
Well, the way it helped is because none of the buyers had any issues with the home because the home was literally in perfect condition. We had the pre-inspection done, everything was taken care of. The house was, this particular owner pressure washed the house, which I don't ever see in, a lot of owners pressure washing the house, going the extra mile, having the whole house repainted, getting all the carpets cleaned. He did the whole 9 yards, had it professionally cleaned, et cetera, et cetera. And on top of that, had the certified pre-owned, went through the certified pre-owned program. So the house was immaculate. All the buyers felt extremely comfortable. The issue had nothing to do with the house. It just had everything to do with the HOA, and that they just felt the HOA was too high. But we got it sold, but that was something that was out of our control.
But see, having the house prepared so that when people came to see it, because there's, a seat for everyone at the table. You just have to be able to find somebody who's comfortable in that seat, which of course, when the house is attractive enough, when the house is in tip-top shape, when the house is priced for what the market is and what the value of the house is, that home is going to sell. You have to simply focus that particular home toward the people who would be most interested, want to be in that neck of the woods, want to be, in this case, a gated community, willing to pay a bit higher for the monthly expenses because it was a great private community, and they could move right into that home and not have to do a single thing. So all of those things combined helped to make a house that would have taken much, much longer to sell, far more attractive to the buyers that wanted to be in that neck of the woods, so that that house could get sold and the seller could therefore move on. But then there are houses that are not tip-top, and they're not necessarily going to be tip-top, but there are houses that work, or there are sellers that they have particular needs, or they have to move very quickly, or they have foreclosure pressures. And getting a cash offer on a home is a program that is really important to have in your kit bag. Not every house fits, not every seller needs it. But when you have the ability to bring cash offers, investors who will buy the home at a fair price for what that home is to help the seller move on, that's a very important element. And not just one, but have multiple cash offers to have choices. I know you have experience with that in taking houses that otherwise would have been really difficult to sell and getting them sold through a cash offer.
I think I have a magnet on me saying, if your house is not in good condition, call D. But yes, I do have a lot of experience working with sellers that their houses will not appear on HGTV, and the cash offers work beautifully. Usually they're in a situation where they're tired of the home. They don't have enough money to fix it up. It's in great disrepair. The carpet is messed up. The walls they started off cream, but now they're brown. The same for the carpet. And it's something that if a family were to walk in there, they would walk right back out. But that's where the cash offers come in handy. And it works beautifully. Normally, they're ready to get out, and the buyer, the investor, they're ready to get in. So it's a beautiful marriage, and the ceremony or the closing takes place pretty quickly, usually within a week or two after the offer is accepted, and everybody walks away happy. It
One of
solves the problem.
Yes. For the folks that need it, for the houses that need it, for the particular transition issues that a seller has that need it, having cash offers and having a variety of cash offers available, different choices for different needs is very important, because as they said, some houses are just upside down cakes, and it takes an investor who's going to come in, remodel that house, clean it all back up, make it look pretty, and then resell it at a profit, obviously, because they've turned that house into a move-in ready home. But for somebody who owns an upside down cake, that is a really good route to be able to get best value for the home, take your cash and move on. And there are other people that have issues that are lifestyle issues. I bought a house that's new construction, but it's not going to be ready for 9 months. But I really, really, really need to get my home sold so that I know I have the cash available when it comes time for me to put the down payment down on that new home construction house that's being built. But I don't want to have to rent for 6 months in order to do it. So we have, for example, cash offer buyers that will buy their home, lease that home back to the home seller so they can stay in that home for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And then when they're ready, move out, move into their new home. They have all the cash they need for their down payment. And then we go ahead for the buyer, we resell that home. There's buy before you sell programs. There's fix and buy and fix programs. Every seller has the same basic need. I want to sell my home, but they don't have the same basic house and they don't have the same goals. And they have to find a way to match their goals with what attracts buyers to be able to purchase their home. And so some of the things that we do, that we bring, that you can't really find anywhere else, are certain guarantees that enable the seller to make that home more attractive to home buyers. And one of them is our Love Your Home Guarantee, which is a really interesting program which we offer to the buyers that we help. And we also offer to the buyers that purchase our sellers' homes. One of you guys want to jump in and talk a little bit about what that Love Your Home Guarantee is all about and how it works?
I can tell a story. So we had clients that was a young couple. It was a blended marriage. I think they had one kid between them. And they bought this house and they were never going to have any more kids. And it was a great house. It was a 3-bedroom house and it worked perfectly. And they were set for life, they said. And our guarantee, Love Your Home, or anywhere within
buy it back or sell it for free
in 24 months. Right. So whatever the reason is, if you're not happy with the house or the situation changes, you can come back and we will sell that house for free. So we get a call and they show up in the office one day and they said, "You remember that guarantee you told us about?" And we like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, are you still honoring it?" And we're like, "Yeah, absolutely. Why? What's going on?" "Well, we're pregnant. And not only are we pregnant, we're pregnant with twins." I was like, "Okay, I guess the house doesn't fit anymore. There's not enough room." And so we went in, we sold that house for them. We did not make any commission on that sale at all. And we found them, I don't know, I think it was a 4 or a 5 bedroom house. And so far, we haven't heard from them. So I don't think they had any kids, any more children. But yeah, that's how that works. That's my experience with it.
Yeah, and in that particular sale, because they had not been in that home for very long, they didn't have a great deal of equity. They put a small amount of money down. And so selling the house, all of the expenses in selling it would have meant that they would have had no money to put down on the new home. So, our guarantee, which is your home sold, um, either we will buy it back from you or we will sell it for free. Choosing the selling for free option meant that they were able to save all of the commission that the real estate agents, us, would have gotten, which gave them enough cash in their pocket to use to put as the down payment on their new home. So they were literally transitioning from home A to home B without any additional cost. And that's a really important thing to have available to you because, you can live in a house for 25 years and so it doesn't matter. But you can live in a house for 15 months and your job changes. Or with this couple, you've got now you're going to have 3 children instead of 1, and you want to have bedrooms for all the kids and still have place for the grown-ups. You need to change school districts. Family is coming to live with you, all sorts of things. And so that Love Your Home guarantee is a very unusual, but for us, very routine guarantee that we give to every buyer, whether we're working with a buyer or that we're associated with when they're purchasing one of our home sellers' homes, which makes it easier for the buyer of our sellers' homes to make a decision to buy the home, because if for any reason they decided, oops, I made a mistake, they have the option. It's like, your toaster broke and you can give it back and get a new one, except this toaster is $400,000. So it's a pretty important guarantee. The other guarantee that we use, which
I
is
have a perfect example of someone in terms of that particular scenario. Inevitably, when I have done this many times, and I'm sure you have too, you're in a new construction, newly built community, right? You're driving around either with a buyer or seller. I mean, a buyer in your car, and you see absolutely brand new homes. The community's only been built for maybe 1.5, 2 years, and you see for sale signs, 1 or 2 for sale signs. That is a perfect example of that person buying the home, doesn't have a lot of equity. They bought it recently because it's brand new, but for whatever reason, they have to move. They have to sell it. What a perfect, I'm sure they would be happier if they knew that they had our guarantee. If we sold it to them, they would know that when they sell that house, they don't have to pay us a commission if we're helping them buy another one. But that just shows you the value, because inevitably things happen and you just don't know.
Especially for those people coming from out of state, people who's maybe have been to Georgia once or twice, but don't really know the areas as well as they might think they do. They get there and realize that, hey, I really, really thought I loved this city, but apparently, it's just not the right one for me, or the schools are not, you thought they were one thing, but they're completely different. Or, I had one particular client. They moved out near their family. They traveled. I can't remember what state they moved from. They traveled, hundreds of miles to finally move in near their family. And right when they moved in, their family got transferred. And, you can't really blame. They didn't know. No one knew. It was a military situation, so they had to travel for military. So outside of that, outside of them being able to move, outside of us being able to get them out of there, there's not really much they could do,
Right.
because life
Yeah.
happens.
It's true. I had a client that was in Texas and wanted to move here to be closer to her sister. And she was real vivacious and, liked to go out dancing. And, she moved to, she wanted to be close to her sister. Her sister lived in Canton. So we ended up selling her a house in Canton, and she lived there for 2 years. And she was like, I don't like this place. There's nothing to do here. It's like, well, you are living. And at that point in time, Canton was pretty country. It wasn't as metropolitan as it is now. And so she said, I'm really miserable here, and sold her house and went back to Texas. So it happens.
And so you need to have, as a home buyer, flexibility, and as a home seller, the offer of flexibility to a buyer. And those are kinds of things that separate our home sellers from so many of the others. All of these programs that get a house in really tip-top selling condition have guarantees that enable the house to be really much more attractive to buyers, because now they have guarantees and decisions can be made for them. They come with warranties, just all of the different tools that we have available that are not typical in the industry to make it so that the sellers truly have the ability to get that home sold. But then there's one other thing that I wanted to talk about, which is something that is for just about every seller critically important, which is, what is this house going to sell for? And what's my bottom line going to be? Because I need the money for the down payment, or I need the money because we're going to be moving to Timbuktu, or we want to have that money in the bank because we want to be able to travel and we don't want to own a house anymore. We want to rent a camper and go to all 50 states. Whatever the reason is, they want to know that when they sell that home, it's going to be sold for full market value, and that they're going to get that full market value when they close the sale. And so one of the guarantees that we have is, when we and the home seller agree on what that market value is, we'll guarantee that price. It's your home sold guaranteed at your price, or we'll pay you the difference. And that's a really interesting talking point, Josh D, when you're talking to home sellers that are thinking about who it is that they would like to help them get their home sold. How is that as a talking point something that really separates us from the crowd?
I'll take it. So
Got it.
yeah, so we actually use that all the time, and that's one thing that really, I don't know of any other brokerage out there that does it. So just like you were saying, if when we actually come to the seller and we actually agree on a price, if we do not get their home sold at the price that they need and that we've all agreed to, we'll actually will pay from our commission and give them the difference. So that being the case, a lot of sellers, of course, want to sell their home for the highest price humanly possible. I've never heard someone who actually, there was one person in 16 years that said, I just want to sell my house at this price, and got on a motorcycle and left. That's literally one person. I have no idea where he left. He might have drove off a cliff afterwards. I have no idea. But other than that, every single person wants to sell their home for the highest price humanly possible. And yes, we are going to do that. Our goal is to sell the house for as highest as humanly possible as the market will allow. But in the realistic world, you do need to know how much you do have to play with if you're buying your next home, if you're going to continue doing whatever you're trying to do, whether you're going to apply that money somewhere else, or even if you just want to know how much it's going to be staying in your account after everything's said and done. So we guarantee that if we get your home sold and the price is not exactly where we said it's going to be and that we've all agreed to, we'll pay the difference to make sure that your budget never gets askew. Let me say it that way. So,
Well said, Josh.
And that creates an air of certainty. And certainty in life, no less in buying and selling homes, is one of the things we all seek, but it seems to be something that we always chase. So
and I want to add to it. So with that, including so that on the seller side, of course, the buyers love your home guarantee. You buy it back or sell it for free. If you don't love your home, we'll buy it back from you and get you out of there. So we're partners in this. So only a partner is going to say, okay, I'm not going to just get you to the closing. I'm sticking with you for 2 years. I'm sticking with. I'm going to stand by with you. We're going to take, if we don't get the home sold at the price, the market we couldn't get sold at that price, we're going to take the hit with you. So it's more of a partnership than anything else. We're not disappearing on you.
That's
So
a good point.
yeah, we're going to weather that storm with you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and you talk to so many buyers and sellers, and there's an inherent distrust in the universe for everything related to sales, particularly in the real estate industry, and so building certainty and building trust, as Josh says, is real important. How do you get to that, and what's the feeling that you try to create when you're starting a relationship with somebody who needs to get their home sold, to help them to begin to see that trust and feel some sense of certainty?
Well, I think that for me, what's important, they're not going to trust you unless they like you. So if I can get over the hump of them liking me, which usually is not a problem, I think one of the things that we do differently at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and specifically the Miskin team, to give them a sense of certainty, we really dig and dive. I can't even say the word. We dive deep is what I'm trying to say when it comes to doing a very thorough market analysis. I have never seen any market analysis as thorough and as detailed as what we are taught to do here at the Miskin team. Based on the very thorough market analysis, we're pretty spot on in terms of what we think the house is going to sell for. And based on that number, everything else is based on that number. What their equity is based on that number, so that they'll know what they're moving forward with. And that gives people or sellers a certain degree of certainty, because when we throw a number out there, it's not just plucked from the air. It is solid, and they know they can stand on it, and it's proven to be pretty on point.
And that's a terrific point. All of the things that are so critical to get to that moment where there is some sense of certainty. Certainty is the number one need to help people who are really working with huge investments. If it's a $300,000 home or it's a $3 million home, it's still, for the people who own that home, a huge investment, and oftentimes a big part of what their financial stability is all about. And so knowing that on the front end, we come in with the right information that is going to give them the ability to make a good decision about how and when they're going to get that home sold, with systems and programs that, all the way from let's get your credit fixed to heck, we'll be with you for 2 years after you sell that home, after you buy that home, so that if there are any issues, we will help you sell it and buy another and not charge you for the sale of that home. That's a huge span of relationship that is so untypical, unfortunately, in our industry, but something that, because we live in a world in which we call second mile service, we are there from first day through years after the sale. Very, very critically important.
Yeah, I want to say something. That's why it's so important to really interview the person that you're going to pick to sell probably the most expensive item that you have in your life. And so many people don't. So many people will say, well, my girlfriend's a real estate agent. She does, she's a hairdresser and a real estate agent. So it's not her profession. It's not her full-time profession. Or I'm going to give the listing to my friend who I play tennis with. Well, that is like such a big mistake, because you have to interview people to find companies that will truly represent you like we do, and like we're talking about, has all these programs, stays with you for 2 years. And I think one of the programs that I work in this company is expired listings, and I cannot tell you how many listings expire because they picked the wrong. And if you call them and you ask them, why do you think your house expired, it's usually, well, the agent didn't do this, or et cetera, or et cetera. Or it could have been too high priced because the agent never really did a super thorough CMA, competitive market analysis, that's what that means, and showed the homeowners what their house will bring realistically in today's market.
And
So
one
in
thing I
the
want to add to all that is, all of our systems are based on guarantees. All the people that we partner with are based on guarantees. One thing we brought up previously in a different, podcast, but even our lender has a guarantee. So if they buy a home with us and they get a loan, and at some point over the next year the interest rates go down, they're able to refinance to a lower interest rate. Our lender will actually refinance you for free to the lower interest rate. So all of the segments, all the people that we work with offer their own guarantees. Our credit repair has a guarantee. Some of our inspectors have guarantees. We really try. We really stick with our clients. So we're there for the ups and the downs, because I have sold several homes for free. Not a lot of time, not really because the house was bad. I've actually never had a situation where the house was bad. It's because life happened. So I've done it for free, but I don't want to sell it for free. I don't want to sell the home again either. I want to make sure you find the perfect home for your life and that it's the perfect situation for you. But I don't think anyone else is going to come back and help you that second, third, fourth, fifth time and really stick with you as a partner, as a friend. So all of my clients, all the people I've ever worked with, I feel extremely strong to say I have become their friend. I am their friend. And they will say the same thing to me.
So in the end, the parting message is, wherever you are in the country that you're watching this, when you're getting ready to sell your home and buy another, or you're buying your first home, or you're buying an investment property, you want to make sure that the real estate professionals that you're hiring to help you to solve the issues that come with what you want to accomplish have a team, and they have guarantees, and they have the ability to stand by you and create a sense of certainty, so that what you want to accomplish is the number one goal, not what anybody else wants to accomplish. What they want to accomplish is helping you to achieve all the needs and goals you have in the sale or the purchase of your home. So look for a good real estate professional, like the agents and the teams from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, whether it's here in Metro Atlanta or in any of the 70 or 75 different cities around the country and in Canada, where we help people, where all of these guarantees and all of these programs are available, so that you can, as Stephanie said, interview those agents and have them show you proof positive who their team is, how it works, and what the advantages will be for you to get your home sold or to purchase your next home. Super duper important. Find a professional with a team. So I'd like to wrap this one up. This was a lot of detail, and a lot of detail from two real estate professionals who are in the field and that do this day in and day out and really know what it is to find the solutions to help people to achieve their goals in buying or selling homes. But before we say goodbye, Steph, could you just give us a quick summary of some of the hot tuna things that are going on this weekend, so that Folks can, while they're thinking about buying or selling a home,
Yeah.
go have a good time while they're doing it.
That's right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. The coolest, I think, is the aquarium. I think that everybody should try to get there. Glow nights at the aquarium. Go after 10 o'clock go after 4 o'clock because you'll get $10 off. The kids will love it. You'll love it. It's just sounds like a bunch of fun. Then there's the 3 different music venues that I was talking about. One was Atlanta Jazz Festival, Piedmont Park. It's free. It's going on this weekend. For all you millennials out there, free, no cover charge, Slow Pour Brewing Company in Lawrenceville on Saturday from 7 to 11. And then the Guallett Historic Courthouse in Lawrenceville is called Music on the Lawn, and live music and dancing. You can reserve a private table. You can get drink tickets. So those are my music things. My art for the week is the old 4th Ward. And if you've not been down there, it's very cool part of Atlanta. You really need to check it out. It's all around the Beltline at the park down there at the historic 4th Ward Park. An art festival with everything that goes on in an art festival, juried art festival, food, music, art, things for the kids to do. Check it out if you haven't been down to the old 4th Ward. That whole area has transitioned unbelievably in the time that we've been living here in Atlanta. So if you haven't been there, go check it out. And last but not least, it's my first state park I want to talk about, Red Top Mountain State Park in Ackworth. $5 for your car to get in, a sandy beach, so much to do right on Lake Allatoona. And I think, Josh, I think you brought the girls up there, if I'm not mistaken, and had a good old time. So check that out. That's just the first park, Red Top Mountain State Park in Ackworth.
So, living in Metro Atlanta, whether you're buying or selling, or you're just sitting out in front of your house and having a beer, it's a great place to be, and wonderful different communities that are as varied as can be. So, I want to thank you all for watching this week. If you like what you saw, please like us on Facebook, and if you'd like to just continue to on YouTube rather. Thank you. And I always mix the two up. On YouTube, like
Right.
us. And if you want to hear more, or you want to go back and get more information about some of the topics we've talked about in the past, or see some of the nifty videos that we record that are fun and helpful for you, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. I want to thank Josh Guallett and Dee for joining us this week. Their expertise and their experience and their day-to-day business and work with folks in the field is something that is very important, and I'm really pleased that they took the time to share with us. Stephanie, I want to thank you for your cool ideas this week, and I want to just let you know that if you have need for more information, you can always click on any of the links that are accompanied with this podcast.
Or you can put a note in the comments. You can, if you want some more information, write something down in the comments. We'll get back to you.
Yep, that's true. Write something in the comments and ask us what it is that you want to know. And until we see you next time, we all want to thank you very much for joining us.
Have a great weekend.
Have a good one.
Bye. Thanks.